Hey Wolfpack, and welcome back. It is finally Saturday, and I am bringing you 3 more creepy Craigslist stories. I also have created a Discord. The link for that will be in the description down below. With that said, whether you're sitting around a campfire, on the night shift, or even laying in bed, let my voice soothe your nightmares. I'm sure you are clever, exceedingly clever. The kind of person who would never fall for an online scam, isn't that right? Especially a ridiculous one. You know what I'm talking about. You've just won a trip to Barbados. Please give us your social security number. Or, I am a Nigerian prince and I have to get rid of all this gold. No, you would never fall for that. At the first sight of a red flag, you would turn around and run. Only naive idiots fall for such things. Well, let me disenfranchise you of all this comfortable notion. You can't run a successful scam hoping that only well-off idiots will come to you. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of those out there, but you'll be lucky to run across one of them, let alone dozens. An average con man like myself, a self-made man, really, who is only trying to get by, can only prey on vulnerable people. The usual targets tend to be grandmothers and the mentally ill, but that is something I can never do. If you scam a neglectful grandson out of his inheritance, he'll stop at nothing to make sure you pay for your crime, and more importantly, pay Granny back. I can't risk that. My targets of choice are the illegals. Not that I have anything against illegals. Lovely people, the lot of them. They run away from violent situations, and risk their lives to seek refuge in our country, where they are willing to do backbreaking labor for less than minimum wage. What is there not to love about a group of hardworking people who believe that all Canadians are kind and decent and would never try to take away their money? How could we not welcome with open arms these penny-saving folks who are usually too scared to go to the authorities? You've probably seen one of the dozens of ads I put up on Craigslist and Kijiji. They vary in pictures and tone, but the bottom line is this. Available immediately. Lovely one-bedroom apartment, perfect for international students or worker. My husband and I are missionaries going to South Africa next week and need to sublet our place urgently. We don't care about the money, we just want someone who will look after our home. CAD, $1,000, utilities included, no lease necessary. Contact Mary Morgan at this number. The story changes, but I find that the missionary woman is wholesome enough to lure people in. The pictures have to look realistic. No fancy condo promotional ads. A nice picture of a basement apartment will do. The price has to be below average, but not so much so that it would raise suspicion. Then, you sit back and wait. You would be surprised how many people will answer to something so ridiculous just to see what happens. But most of them lose interest when I tell them I can't meet them in person. The husband and I already flew to South Africa, you see. Some don't mind though, and agree to meet with my cousin at the place once the transfer, which includes 1 month of rent, plus CAD $200 deposit for the keys, goes through. You would think that these websites would keep better track of this sort of thing, but they don't. And none of my targets are going to risk going to the police because they lost $1,200 to an internet scam. Some of them come from places where the police are more dangerous than the criminals, while others don't want to risk deportation by calling attention to themselves, or they're just too embarrassed and too busy blaming themselves for falling for something so stupid. To be fair, I'm sure the police have better things to do with their time. Even if this got reported, they'd probably think I live somewhere in Nigeria and that I'm not worth the trouble. If anyone bothered to care though, they'd find out that I live in downtown Toronto, and my little scam has been covering my rent for 5 months now. The last time I put one of my ads up, I got a reply within 5 minutes. Miss Morgan, I am interested in rent. Your beautiful apartment for the 6 months is still available? Amir. I smiled at the broken English and hit reply immediately. Hi Amir. Thank you so much for answering back to the ad. The apartment is still available, but unfortunately, my husband and I had to fly to South Africa sooner than we expected, so I can't show you the place. However, if you are willing to transfer the first month rent to our account, my cousin Lisa will meet you at the address to give you the keys on Sunday. You can come by and take a look at the lobby. That shouldn't be a problem. God bless, Mary. I know exactly what you're thinking. There's absolutely no way I've been running this ludicrous scam successfully for 5 months. To be honest, sometimes I'm a little surprised too. I think it's all in the names I've chosen. Mary. Mary is a woman, and therefore more harmless to people. Mary is a church-going white lady who loves Jesus. Mary is pious and good. Mary is definitely not a 6-foot-tall, 34-year-old guy named Richard who's only after your hard-earned money. Amir replied within 15 minutes. Miss Morgan, is good. Do I transfer now? I move Sunday, yes? Amir. I stared at my email. It's not that I was surprised he was willing to pay. I was surprised he was willing to pay so quickly. Even the desperate and the naive need some reassurance. They pushed and tried to find solutions with you. Maybe they could meet Lisa. Maybe they could give Lisa the money instead. No one wanted to part ways with their money that quickly. Something didn't feel right, but I wasn't about to say no. Just to be cautious, I sent him another email. Why don't you tell me about yourself, Amir? Is your family moving in with you? Do you have a pet? How long are you staying? God bless. Mary. Amir's reply reached my inbox just as quickly as his other messages. It was short and to the point. Hello, Mary. No family, just me. I work as clean. I pay now and move Sunday, yes? Amir. I tried to picture Amir in my head. With that name, I thought it was safe to assume he was from the Middle East. He was probably nice and apologetic. So very good to have the opportunity to come to this country. I work as clean. He probably meant cleaner. He could be an international student with a part-time job, but most students from the Middle East were teenagers being supported by their wealthy parents. It seemed safe to assume he was in the country illegally since cleaning companies don't care about the legal status of their employees, and will often pay them under the table. He had to be either small or old, because young immigrant men tend to work in construction, and he was eager, verging on desperate. Maybe his temporary visa had expired and now he has to hide. Not that I was able to tell him to think carefully. I sent him my PayPal information and waited. The transfer notification came through, and immediately after, Amir sent me another email. I send the money. I move Sunday, yes? Amir. I was a little shocked at how easy it had been. This whole exchange had taken less than 30 minutes. That had to be a record. You know what? I sort of felt sorry for him. I know I said targets aren't necessarily stupid, but he was way too trusting. He was probably some religious weirdo who thought the best of everyone. Well, he'll learn a valuable lesson after this, I said out loud. My dog looked up from the floor, head tilted to the side, slightly judgmental. I pointed a finger at him. Not a word, Thanos. This will put food in your plate and beer in my fridge. Thanos huffed as though he didn't approve of my life choices, but quickly went back to sleep. There was no arguing with food, nor beer. As a rule, I block my target's email once the transfer comes through, since there will be no need for further communication. It was no different with Amir, and I went on with my life as though nothing out of the ordinary had happened. To be honest, I was feeling pretty good about myself at the time. 30 minutes to complete a con that usually took 3 to 4 days. Clearly, my skills were improving. The very next day, I opened my email to find a message that read, "Need new address." I frowned at that and opened the email. Miss Morgan, I went to the apartment, but it was the wrong address. Send new address, please. I move Sunday. Amir. I smirked at the screen. I wasn't worried. There wasn't much that he could do about it now. I made sure to block him properly this time, and continued half-heartedly searching for a new job. I had planned to spend the rest of winter scamming people from the warmth of my home, then find a more steady source of income in the spring. But the job ads I found online were so underpaid I was seriously considering extending my vacation. I was still in bed, thinking whether I should go downstairs for a cigarette, when another notification popped on the top of my screen. New email. I saw Amir's email address. The subject line simply read, "Found it." I deleted it without even thinking about it. That stupid app was always glitching. I could block him once I turned my laptop on. Whatever Amir had found, it didn't interest me in the least. On Tuesday, I got myself a new TV as a little reward for running such a quick and effective con. I admit that I am not at all frugal, and have always had difficulty saving money, but at that point, I saw no reason to worry. It was evident that my little scheme was working. guaranteeing a steady flow of cash into my bank account. I would never be a millionaire, but I wouldn't have to worry about the bills anytime soon. I arrived home that evening in a pretty good mood, but it didn't last. I knew something was wrong right away. I couldn't put my finger on it, but there was a little voice in the back of my mind telling me that not everything was in its proper place. Something had changed since I'd left that morning. Thanos trotted up to me, wagging his tail. "Did you do something?" I asked. Wouldn't have been the first time I had gotten home to find out my clumsy mutt had ripped one of my pillows open or knocked over a plant. Thanos blinked up at me, as though wondering why I hadn't scratched his ears yet. I walked past him and took a look at the living room. Everything seemed to be in order, and yet it wasn't. I couldn't quite see why, though, and it was driving me crazy. A man knows his home. He can tell when something isn't right. I heard a sorrowful whine and felt the tip of a cold nose brush against my hand. I patted my dog on the head, but the feeling didn't fade. I must have stood in my living room for another 5 minutes, bewildered but unable to see anything out of place. Finally, I decided I was being ridiculous and that I had better things to do. I took a picture of my 24-inch TV and uploaded it to Craigslist. Then I put it away to make room for the 50-inch that would be delivered the following morning. And no, I was not about to scam people again. I actually intended on selling my old TV. There was no reason to keep it around at the time. Besides, I had tried something similar a few months before and it hadn't worked. I went into the kitchen to heat leftovers for dinner. I took a frying pan out of the cupboard and a plate from the dish rack. I stopped, lowered my eyes to the plate in my hand. The penny took a moment to drop, but it finally did. It wasn't that there was something out of place in my apartment. There was nothing out of place in my apartment. I had left that same plate on the couch after having lunch, and the frying pan that was currently in its cupboard had been left in the sink since breakfast. I stared at the plate I was still holding, drawing my eyebrows into a frown. I hadn't washed either of these, and had definitely not put them away. I never did. They usually just stayed in the dish rack until I was ready to use them again. How the hell had my tableware made its way from the living room to the kitchen and gotten itself washed? Found it. Something cold ran down my spine, but I knew, right then and there, that the thought was absurd. I had been careful. I had even asked my friend Daryl, who was good with computers, to ward my laptop against viruses and hackers. I was safe. My target hadn't tracked me down, especially not to wash my dirty dishes. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, and decided to take a look at the email I deleted the previous morning. I didn't have to, though, because Amir had sent me a new email that afternoon. In all caps, he announced, "We have a problem. Miss Morgan, we have problem. House is dirty. Please clean house before Sunday, and I can't live with dog. Dogs is dirty animal. You get rid of dog, yes? I move Sunday. Amir." I stared at my phone screen, feeling a pinch of fear crawling up my chest and setting camp there. I kept myself from having a panic attack by repeating a less than reassuring mantra. If he's actually found me, he'd have done much worse. Horrible as that thought might be, it was also right. If Amir had managed to track me down, then he wouldn't have wasted his time washing dishes and sending emails. At the very least, he'd have confronted me. It made a lot more sense for me to have forgotten doing the dishes than for him to have gone through the trouble of tracking me down and breaking into my apartment just so he could criticize my cleaning habits and my dog. As for his email, I didn't have an explanation for that, but maybe he'd found the ad I'd stolen the pictures from. Maybe he'd gone to the address on the ad and seen a dog through the window of the apartment. It was unlikely, but not entirely impossible. If he found me, he would have done much worse. Thanos came closer to lick my hand, and I rubbed his ears. "It's fine," I told him, as though he were the one who needed comfort. "Nothing bad will happen." The furniture was moved on Wednesday. This time, I could see it the moment I opened the door. Someone had moved my armchair to the other side of the room so that it was the first thing I saw when I walked in. Not only that, but everything I had left on the top of the coffee table found its way to the drawers and cupboards. The curtains that were usually closed had been pushed open, allowing a lot of sun in. I hadn't been gone for an hour. I had smoked a cigarette, gone to the supermarket, then smoked another cigarette downstairs before coming back up again. There was no way anyone would have the time to do this. Besides, I had a brand new TV mounted on my wall. Who would break in and not even take that? You're a useless guard dog, I told Thanos, who barked happily at me, as though he'd done an excellent job protecting my home from invaders. I checked with the landlord to see if he'd come in unannounced, but he hadn't, and even if he had, I doubt he had wasted my time returning my dirty underwear to its proper drawer. I hesitated, then opened my email. The subject line of Amir's latest message announced, "Please open curtains." "Miss Morgan, please let son in and get rid of dog. Dog is dirty. I move in Sunday. Amir." I thought of replying. I went as far as to type down an angry message where I threatened to contact the police and get him deported to whatever craphole city he'd escaped from, if he didn't stay away from me and my dog. The words felt so good to write, but I didn't send it. What could I tell the police? That one of the people I'd scammed was harassing me? No, I couldn't call them for help, and I suspected that Amir knew that. I went to see Daryl the following day. He didn't appreciate me barging in on him while he was at work, but he relented after I told him someone had broken into my house, and that I suspected I had been hacked. After 20 minutes where he divided his attention between my laptop and a tray of sushi, he declared that there was nothing wrong with my computer. Oh, and that I owed him $200 for getting him involved in my ridiculous scheme. "Unlike you," he told me, "I actually have a job I'd like to keep." Daryl was proud of the fact that he could rot away in a 9-to-5 working IT at a bank. Personally, I found that to be a waste of his talents. I returned home, reassured that there had been a rational explanation for everything that had happened, even if I couldn't see it yet. But with every step, I became a little more anxious about going back home. By the time I got to the front door, I wasn't sure I wanted to go in at all. What would be waiting for me? Maybe I should call some friends and go have a beer before... Thanos started whimpering. He hurt my dog. I slammed that door open. The feeling I got when I walked into my apartment was overwhelming. It was like an icy finger had slid down my spine, leaving a trail of goosebumps and dread on its way. Something terrible had to have happened to provoke that sort of reaction. Then I realized it hadn't been dread, at least not exclusively. My apartment was literally freezing. The heat had been turned off, and the door to the balcony was wide open. Thanos was okay, but he was curled in the corner, shaking almost as much as I was. I could hear him whining over the sound of the wind and the snow blowing into my home. Shit! I shut the balcony door and turned the heat back on. Even with the mild winter we've been having this year, this is still Canada. Shit! My dog could have frozen if I had taken a moment longer. Thanos ran over to me, and I let him cuddle with me on the couch until we both stopped shaking. Unsurprisingly, Amir had sent me a new email. "Miss Morgan, please turn heat off. Apartment is hot. Also, dog has to leave. I move in Sunday. Amir." I rubbed Thanos' floppy ears with my cold hands while I fought the urge to launch my cell phone across the room. You can judge me all you want. I know I'm far from being perfect, but at least I'm not some sociopath who messes with people's heads and threatens their dogs. I've had enough of this. The next time he came into my apartment, I was going to be ready. I paid for extra fast shipping and got a discreet nanny cam from Amazon. I positioned it so that it was pointing at the door and left with Thanos. I sat at a coffee shop a couple of blocks from my house and sipped my coffee while keeping my eyes glued to the live feed on my cell phone. The moment Amir walked through that door, I would get a good look at his face. I might send the video to him by email and see if that would spook him. Or perhaps I would use his first name and picture to track him down. I knew I was going to have to wait for a very long time, but it didn't matter. I would sit in the cafe for hours if I had to only get a glimpse of his face. 7 minutes later, I saw the doorknob on my front door turn. I held my breath. It couldn't be. It was too fast. He couldn't have known I was away from my home yet. Had he been watching me? Did he know where I was? "I got you now," I muttered under my breath. The door opened just a little, then it paused. Maybe he was listening in, trying to figure out if I was home, but the door stayed like that for a very long time. I even wondered if he had gotten to his knees and crawled into the apartment since the camera didn't reach a good 3 feet off the floor. I quickly reminded myself that it was impossible. The door had to be only a few inches ajar. A person could never fit through. The minutes ticked by. My eyes were beginning to hurt because I wouldn't blink. I was too afraid to miss something if I looked away for just a moment. Come on. Feed, then died. I ran. The barista screamed after me, and Thanos yapped and pulled at his leash. Bringing down to the table I tied him to, along with everything on it. I didn't care at the moment. I wasn't about to let that man mess with my life any longer. I covered the 2-block distance. In a desperate attempt, large strides that set my muscles on fire. I was so close now. So goddamn close. The first thing I saw when I burst into my home was that the camera was nowhere to be seen. The second thing I saw was a couple of ugly purple pillows on the couch. They didn't belong to me. On the coffee table, a cinnamon-scented candle had been lit, and it was letting out a strong, unpleasant smell. No one was in sight. Inside my pockets, my phone chimed with a new message. Miss Morgan, house smell nice now. Happy dog is out. I move Sunday. Amir. I flopped on the couch. The run had left me panting and lightheaded, and I had to fight the urge to cry. This wasn't right. This wasn't fair. I had a camera pointing right at the door. He shouldn't have been able to get past that. I should have found out what he looked like. I should be the one in control. I wasn't, though. I had no control over anything. I didn't leave Thanos in the coffee shop, though maybe I should have. I went back to fetch him and pay for the damage I've caused. Let me tell you, the manager was less than impressed with my "I saw someone break into my house" excuse. I was asked not to come back. I cuddled up with my dog that night, though I was too scared to fall asleep. I had checked every nook and cranny of the apartment twice, but I still wasn't convinced Amir had left at all. My eyes kept jumping from one dark corner to the next, seeing faces in the shadows, and imagining 2 long arms extending from under the table to pull at my feet. What was he going to do next? Was he going to hurt my dog? Was he going to hurt me? This wasn't only a clever man who could work around surveillance cameras and keep an eye on me without being seen. This was a patient man. He could have done something horrible on that first day, but he didn't. He chose to wait and toy with me. This was all very amusing to him. I did consider sending his money back. I'm ashamed to admit it took me that long to even consider it, but I was finally running out of options. If I returned the money, then he might leave me alone, and I wouldn't have to fear coming home every day. Why should he get your money back? Whispered a little voice in my head. He's a psycho, and he's probably doing this on purpose. No one that clever falls for a con as stupid as the one you're running. He wanted you to cheat him. He wanted to find someone to torture. He shouldn't get his money back. And you should do whatever it takes to protect yourself. I was angry. I dare say I was angrier than I was scared. I'd taken that man's money, but he'd taken away my peace of mind and my sense of safety. My punishment didn't fit my crime. It was 4 a.m, but I got out of bed and got my baseball bat out of the closet. If he wanted to come back and harass me, I was going to deal with him myself. I wasn't going to go anywhere, and the moment he walked through that door, I would either scare him away or bash his head in, and I was hoping for the latter. I pulled up my armchair and waited by the door. I barely moved all day. Sometimes I would stretch my legs or pace the space between the chairs and the door, but I never turned my back to the entrance, too scared he might be standing there once I turned back around. I waited and I drank, and whenever I felt bored or ridiculous, I drank more. By noon, I was out of beer and drunkenly swinging my bat at empty spaces, muttering nonsense and ignoring my dog when he started whining to go for a walk. When he started barking madly, I thought someone was about to attack me, but he was simply barking at the neighbor's cat who had wandered into my balcony. It scared the shit out of me. I grabbed him by the collar and forced him into my bedroom, where his barking became louder, then thinned into a whimper, and then completely silent. I didn't pay any attention to him. All I cared about was the chance to cause that man as much pain as he had caused me. Any time now, he would make his move. Any time now, and I would demolish him. As the minutes ticked by and I sobered up, though I began to realize the chances of him coming into my home were very unlikely while I was standing there. If he was really keeping an eye on me, he would know it would be dangerous to come in. I dared hope I'd scared him. He had to know I was armed with a blunt object and could cause severe damage. I unlocked the bathroom door and went to the kitchen to put some food on Thanos' plate. The sound of the food hitting his bowl didn't seem to entice him to come after me. "Come on, boy. I'm sorry I was being mean." "Nothing. Not even a sound. Thanos? I went back to the bedroom and looked around. Then I looked under the bed and inside the closet. Thanos was nowhere to be found, and a new email had made its way into my inbox. I move in on Sunday. Even though Amir had sent me those words many times before, it was the first time I saw the real threat in them. I don't think I'd ever been so scared in my life. There was a sense of fatality after Thanos was taken, the last shred of hope that was taken from me. Up until that moment, I could have explained everything rationally, but this, I couldn't. I thought Amir had been coming into my apartment when he knew I was out, yet me being in the room had made no difference whatsoever. Worst of all, worse than losing Thanos, was that I had no idea how he'd done it. The windows in my bedroom don't open, or rather, they do, but they're too small to allow a person in, or my Labrador-sized mutt out. I understand for the first time that this was going to happen. I just didn't know what this was. He couldn't possibly think I was going to allow him to move in. What was he going to do if I didn't agree to move out? Kill me? Take me to wherever he'd taken Thanos? It was possible. It was very possible. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't do anything except smoke and stare blankly at a wall with tearful eyes. Finally, I swallowed my pride and I sent the email I should have sent on Wednesday. Hi Amir, this is Mary. I am very sorry I didn't have time to tidy up the house before you moved in, and that I didn't get back to you sooner. This week has been very busy and the internet is spotty where I am staying. I am writing with some bad news. My husband and I just received news that the organization we work for is being dissolved, so our services won't be needed for the next 6 months. We are getting back to Toronto tomorrow, so we'll be moving back into our apartment. Evidently, I will reimburse you for the money you've sent immediately. If you need to go to a hotel, just send the check to me and I'll take care of it. I'm so very sorry for the inconvenience. God bless. Mary. I reread the email several times, feeling a weight in the pit of my stomach being lifted. Maybe this would be enough. It had to be. I had learned my lesson. There was no need to harass me anymore, especially now that I have transferred the money back to him. I waited for a reply, but it didn't come. That alone was strange. Amir had always replied within minutes. Maybe that meant he was going to leave me alone, or maybe he was angry. I couldn't know. At 5, just as the sun began to set, I went downstairs to clear my head. I debated whether I should do it or not, but decided it would make no difference. Being in the apartment hadn't deterred that man from coming in. Besides, I'd run out of cigarettes and the stress was only increasing my need for nicotine. I took my keys, my phone, and my wallet. If he were in my home when I returned, I don't know. I suppose I'd have to talk to him, or fight him. One way or another, this would be over. I hadn't taken 5 steps away from the building when I felt it. It's hard to describe it, but it was so intense I swear I could feel it in my bones. I think the best way to put it is heat. There was something as hot as anger being directed straight at me, piercing my back and hitting me as sharply as the cold winter wind. I turned around, and I knew to look up at my 3rd floor window. There he was. Well, I say he, but I'm still not sure. The blinds were down, so I could only see the silhouette of what I think was a man. It was tall and lanky, its head as high as the ceiling. It had its eyes on me, staring through the blinds, projecting much more than just a glare. He was challenging me to go back upstairs. I didn't want to. I jumped when my phone chimed in. New email. When I looked up from my phone again, the blinds had been closed and I couldn't see that thing anymore. What he'd written made my blood run cold. Dear Richard, we should all learn to live with the consequences of our actions. If you had no intention of vacationing your apartment for 6 months, you shouldn't have put that ad up. As it stands, I have no intention of finding another place as the action of moving in. And cleaning your mess was already strenuous enough. Of course, you could always tell your landlord that there is a stranger in your apartment, and I refuse to pay rent from now on. That would eventually get us both evicted. It is your right to do so, and I would understand completely. I can always follow you to a new apartment, though I don't think either of us wants that. You have promised me a home for 6 months, and you have told me that you don't care about the money as long as I take good care of your home. I intend to fulfill my side of the contract as long as you fulfill yours. Respectfully, Amir. I must have stared at my phone for an hour after receiving that message. I didn't know what to do. Somewhere inside my apartment, my new TV was turned on. I've spent the last 2 days looking for cheap accommodations, and I think I've found a depressing little basement in Mississauga that is within my budget. I can't afford much though. I'm still looking for a job, and now I am going to have to pay twice as much rent. I'm not testing whatever it is that lives in my apartment now. I can only hope Amir keeps his word and leaves at the end of the 6 months. God, I need to find a job. I was just trying to sell my old college futon. It had served me faithfully for many years, and minus one little coffee stain on the corner, was in relatively good condition. I had had enough sleeping on an iron bar with a little encouragement from my girlfriend Laura. I purchased an actual bed. The new bed was fantastic, and soon my trusty old futon was regulated to collecting dust in the guest room. Instead of letting it take up space, I decided to be proactive and listed on Craigslist for $100. I took a few pictures of it and whipped up a quick ad. Futon, $100, good condition. Black metal on frame, tan green cover, queen size bed when opened, small coffee stain, otherwise like new. I uploaded the ad to Craigslist and went about the rest of my day. I was walking home from the bus stop when I received an email notification on my phone. Hi, I saw your ad on Craigslist for the futon. I'm interested if it's still available. Thanks. Since this was the only response I had received, I quickly emailed back that it was indeed still available. I felt pretty good. I was finally going to be able to clear out this old futon. A few minutes later, I received a reply. That's fantastic. I would like to buy it. Can I come over to inspect it? You mentioned that there's a coffee stain, and I'd like to just make sure that it isn't a huge stain. If it looks okay, I can pay you cash. Let me know when you are available for me to come over. Thanks. After a few more rounds of emailing back and forth, I had learned that my potential buyer's name was Jack, and we had arranged a meeting at my place for him to inspect the futon in 2 hours. It would be a little later in the evening, but I didn't mind since this would be the quickest sale in Craigslist history if I was able to sell this futon in only 1 day. When I got home, I tidied up my apartment a little bit in preparation of having a stranger enter it and waited around for Jack to arrive. I was watching some TV when I heard my buzzer go off. I hit the button to let Jack in and waited for the knock on my door. When it came, I opened the door to find 3 men standing there to meet me. The one in the middle said, "Hi Andrew, I'm Jack, thanks for seeing me." He explained that his 2 buddies were there to help him carry the futon down to his truck, and hoped I didn't mind that he brought them along. He jokingly referred to them as his muscle, and he wasn't kidding. They were easily each a foot taller than me, and looked like they actually used their gym memberships. I was a little uneasy having so many people come into my small apartment, but I obliged anyway. I led Jack and his 2 friends into my apartment and down the short hallway to the guest bedroom. It was a little cramped in the small room with 4 guys in there, and I was a little relieved when one of Jack's friends asked if he could use the restroom. I said yes, and that it was just down the hall. He left, and Jack began to inspect the futon while his other friend just stood there looking around. Jack started to look over the futon, and started asking questions about it. How old was it? If it was new when I got it? He was being extremely thorough. He kept on asking more and more obscure details about the futon, what manufacturer it was, what the name of the model was. His other friend hadn't returned yet. Jack got down on his hands and knees and started looking underneath the futon. He explained that he was trying to see if there were any secret damages to it. He believed me that it was in good condition, but as a buyer, he had to do his due diligence. I understand. His other friends seemed to be getting annoyed as Jack was taking so long to inspect the futon, and asked if it was okay if he stepped outside of the smaller guest bedroom. I said it was okay, and he left. Then it was just me and Jack in the guest bedroom. Jack was now asking if it was okay if he pulled the futon away from the wall to see if the folding mechanism still worked. He was just being thorough and wanted to make sure he was making a sound investment after all. I agreed and helped him slide the futon away from the wall, and he continued his inspection. After about 10 minutes of Jack finding more things to inspect, I was at my wit's end. He was taking forever, and he kept going over the most menial details of the futon. It was almost like he was deliberately trying to hold my attention to him and the futon for as long as possible. His 2 friends hadn't returned to the guest bedroom yet. Jack kept hemming and hawing over the futon like it was the most important choice he had ever made in his life. I was getting anxious. Why hadn't his two friends returned yet? Since they left the room, I hadn't heard any sounds coming from down the apartment. Jack was now lying down on the futon to test out how comfortable it was. I didn't mind, of course. A buyer has to be comfortable with his purchase. I was about to check on Jack's two friends when Jack announced that he wasn't too sure he liked the futon. I looked down at him, a look of disbelief strewn across my face. He had been so thorough. He had inspected every last inch of the frame. He had tested the locking mechanism ad nauseum. He had asked questions about every last detail only to decide it wasn't worth his time. His time. What about my time, Jack? I was accommodating to your every demand, Jack. I granted you every conceivable allowance you asked for, Jack. I guess things just aren't meant to be. I took down my ad for the futon. It had brought me nothing but frustration. After a few more weeks and some nagging from Laura, I put up a new ad for the futon. Futon, $100, good condition. Black metal on frame, tan green cover. Queen-size bed when opened. Small blood stain. Otherwise, like new. I'm 43 years old, married for 15 years, and my sex life is terrible. For the sake of the internet, my name will be Gene. My husband, Casey, works in finance. I met him at my sister's engagement party, and he happened to be one of the groomsmen. He asked me if I wanted to see the latest Guy Ritchie film with him, and I love all the Guy Ritchie films, so I said yes. We had sex on our second date, and it was terrible, and he was oblivious. Lots of guys are terrible at sex. I liked being around him, and he made me feel good about myself, so I stayed with him, thinking he'd eventually get good at it, even though he definitely wasn't equipped with the largest package I'd ever seen. For a while, the sex was okay, but after we were married, Casey became progressively lazy, and now he's very proud of his teddy bear body, which is more or less a shorter, hairier Homer Simpson. Casey used to be an amateur swimmer with a wicked six-pack. He stopped swimming several years ago, reasoning that our sex life was good enough exercise to keep him in shape. He's fat and bald. We have 3 kids, and I haven't experienced a coital orgasm since I was 24 years old. Very close to half my life ago. His personality is great. He gets invited to exciting work parties that are always fun, but he always wants to leave early so he can bang me. Only he rolls his keg of a belly over me for 3 minutes and passes out in a sweaty heap. I tried being on top, on my knees, and other things I won't write about here. Nothing works. Sometimes, I'll be able to bring myself close to climax through my own movements, but then he comes and immediately exits me, and my evening is ruined. So, I put an ad on Craigslist and lied about my age. Bored 39-year-old wants a one-night stand with a 7-inch stallion, and fairly flattering pictures of my body. Dudes don't care a whole lot about perfection when they know they're going to get laid without repercussions. My fake email flooded with replies, and I eventually found one that was what I was looking for. I think I understand your situation, and you can count on me to be discreet. We met at a coffee shop 7 miles out of town. For the sake of this hookup, his name was Daryl, but I didn't believe him and didn't care. For the sake of the hookup, my name was Carla. He was dreamy and slightly younger than my real age. We had nothing in common, but he assured me that he was 7 inches hard and that he would rock my world. We went to his clean apartment, and I psyched myself up for a good pounding. My heart was racing, my arms were both tingling, and I was all like, I'm actually going to come, and it's going to be awesome. I hadn't been this wet since my disappointing wedding night. I love my husband very much, but you have to understand, he's really, really bad at sex. I've never told him that, of course, but I've lost count of the number of times I've told him outright, I need to try something different. He's never interested. He actually thinks I get my orgasms from lying on my back for 3 minutes while he pumps his pelvis into me with the gusto of a masturbating teenager. So Daryl led the way to his bedroom and asked if I'd like to first admire his collection of hunting knives. They really complete him, and anyone who wants to be with him has to appreciate them for what they are and what they represent. I was young once and knew some weird dudes, so I wasn't that fazed. I was more impatient to come than anything. One enjoyable indulgence, and then I could go back home, and if it worked out, maybe try it with another guy. Or maybe I would be learning something here that I could teach to Casey to make him better at sex. I got this one from an artisan in Mexico, said Daryl, who had taken off his shirt. He handed me whatever looked like a boring knife that I really didn't care about. Fascinating, I cajoled, and I put it back in its case, and I removed my skirt, showing off a cute pair of black lace panties that I dare say would have rocked my ass when I was 30. Turn around, said Daryl. Casey never told me to turn around. I did as I was told. My, what a lovely butt you have, said Daryl. Casey never complimented my body. Daryl had been at least 3 body lengths away from me, but with silent speed, he had traveled our gap and spanked me savagely on my left cheek. Casey had never spanked me, even when I asked him to. Daryl, I said nervously, I have a secretary boss fantasy where I get punished for dropping all the pens. Carla, you read my mind, said Daryl. Let me just get one thing. So I sat impatiently on his bed while he left the room to get the one thing. I'm not a monster. I love my husband and our children. Little voices whispered in my head to stop this indefinitely, but there was no way I was leaving without an orgasm. I had been patient for far too long. Daryl returned to the bedroom, wearing rubber gloves. What for, I couldn't possibly have imagined, until he grabbed his Mexican artisan knife and stabbed himself repeatedly in the stomach, yelling, I hate you, Gene, before slashing the glove off with his left and tearing off the other with his right hand, and dying on the floor, blood spilling from more than a dozen slashes and stab holes. I would have loved to have stopped him, but I was completely frozen in shock, and the thought of actually moving my body to save him completely escaped me. So, here I was, the only witness to a suicide where the victim had worn gloves, while using a weapon that had my fingerprints on them, as he yelled my real name. If I had tried to stop him, would he have stabbed me? I phoned the police immediately. They showed up in 10 minutes and asked me what happened. I was humiliated and filled with shame. I obviously had never intended to get caught cheating, and here I was, explaining to complete strangers that I was cheating on my husband with a stranger I'd met on the internet, while a million emotions swam through my traumatized mind as I cried. Most of the cops I dealt with were men, and they were all wearing wedding rings. They made little effort to hide their judgment of me, and I didn't blame them. I wanted to go home and snuggle with Casey. I wanted to go back in time and never place that stupid ad in the first place. Despite my sexual unfulfillment, I had never been truly unhappy with my life. I had been so ungrateful. Where does your husband think you are right now? Was the only question that resounded within. Amidst the dozens of other questions involving a man who had stabbed himself in front of me, Casey was on a business trip, earning money for his family, like a good husband is supposed to do. Casey's out of the country and doesn't know where I am, I replied. And your children? Asked the detective. My sweet babies, I couldn't bear the shame they would feel if they ever found out about this. They would never forgive me. They're at our house, and I told them I was helping a coworker put together boxes to facilitate a move. I answered. Have you ever met this man before? A detective asked me. Not until tonight, I answered, still wondering how the hell Daryl had known my real name. His real name was Ivan Sharon, said the detective, and a wave of shock hit me as my final year of high school flashed before my eyes. Ivan Sharon had an insane crush on me, but he was 14 while I was 18, and I had zero interest in him. He was awkward, and kept trying to impress me by telling me how hard his life was, and how different he was than everyone else. From what he told me, it was more like complaining than anything else. He had a supportive family, and equally weird friends who were into the same weird things as well. I wasn't a cool kid in school or anything, but I definitely thought I was too cool for Ivan. We had nothing in common, and he was always telling me that I would be a better person if I shared his interest in poorly written fantasy novels and tonal soundscapes. He asked me out more than 10 times until I agreed to go out with him, with the intent of being lame on purpose so that he might lose interest in me. On the night of our date, I changed my mind and phoned his house, only he wasn't there, so I stood him up completely. The next day at school, I told him that I just wasn't interested and asked him to never talk to me again. It was high school. I'm not proud of it how I treated him. I had no idea I had affected him this much. Had he been thinking of me while I was in university? Was he hung up on me this whole time I was in a frustrating marriage, living my entire adult life with nothing to do with him? Was it fate that made him reply to that Craigslist ad? How could he have known it was me? He had looked so handsome and capable of interesting things. Had we ever crossed paths on the street? Had he ever recognized me? Why did he waste his life thinking of someone who never bothered to think of him? "Keep your phone on you," one of the detectives said to me. A few hours later, at a police station where the coffee was terrible and I wasn't allowed to smoke any cigarettes, they made it clear that I wasn't under arrest, but that I had to stay in the city until told otherwise. For the next few weeks, I was the only suspect in his death, as my fingerprints were all over the weapon, but they eventually decided I was innocent and ruled Ivan's death a suicide. Casey never found out, but I'll never forget, I nearly fainted when Casey said casually one morning, "Ivan Sharon killed himself." "He was in high school with your sister. Do you know him?" "Not really," I answered casually, hoping to never speak of the matter again. A great sex life would be wonderful, but for the moment, I'll be thankful for what I've got. I won't place another ad anywhere for anything. Casey is wonderful, our kids are wonderful, and I will never do anything again that could jeopardize the life we have together. I just hope Casey gets better at sex, but with my luck, he'll just go impotent. Thanks for listening, Wolfpack. If you want to submit your own story, the links for my email and subreddit will be down below. I've also created a Discord, so if you want to join that, the link will be in the description down below as well. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And with that said, have beautiful nightmares, and I will see you next time.